What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another great edition of No Love Philly, the podcast dedicated to artists, activists, musicians, comedians, breweries, performers, basically anybody in and around the city of Philadelphia that is making this place as awesome as it is. Today we got a banger for you, man. We got Pray to Keep, and these dudes are doing something awesome. They just released their first EP. It's a self-titled EP. They fucking got this shit produced by one of the dudes from Taking Back Sunday, a former vocalist, and it's awesome, man. I mean, I think the fact that they were able to, it's an awesome band in general. They hooked up with Fred Mascherino, who he even did guest vocals and guitar on the damn thing, and just so you know a little bit about Pray to Keep themselves, it's kind of like a super group in a lot of sorts of ways. I mean, they've got Pat from Agitator, well-known straight edge band, hardcore band, and a whole bunch of dudes from a bunch of different bands. We caught up with Will and Jay, and it's in BreweryTown, and we just talked to them about everything, man. We talked to them about the recording process. I had no idea. I had zero idea that Fred Mascherino actually lives in this area. So it was just something. It was something new to learn, and it's amazing to me how much talent there actually is in and around this city. I mean, I'm amazed by it all the time. I feel like we would never, ever run out of content because there's just so many awesome different things going on. On a side note, we're going to be reaching out to a bunch of different troops, comedians, recording artists. I'm really trying to book up the September calendar with interviews. I'm hoping to get out to a lot more shows this month. I've revamped the website. So we're doing a lot of different things, man. But today we've got Pray to Keep, and it is it's an awesome interview. I really appreciated getting to get out there. I am hoping to link them up with No Hope Records. And maybe something comes from it, maybe something doesn't. Maybe they just have a beer together and it's awesome. You know, even that would be great. But they are a super cool group of dudes. I'm really looking forward to what they do. They definitely they're doing it, man. You can check out the lead track off of their Headstone Lottery. Make sure to check that out. But they're doing it, man, and it's awesome. But they do have different members from Agitator, Rock Bottom, No Paradise, Cadet, Brontide. If you're into emo, these dudes are the dudes that are doing it. I think they said they're going to do some changes. They're going to make some changes to the way that they sound and things. But I don't know, man. I just think that they're doing a great fucking job. So you want to make sure to check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. But now for our show list, sponsored by The Hook Journal. There's all kinds of things going on this week. Tuesday, you have Ellison Jackson and Big Brutus with Kennedy Shaw, Tapes and Tubes. I'm hoping to get to that show. That's taking place at Pharmacy. Also on Tuesday, you have Trouble Boys with the Ups and Dark Web 9.5 at Everybody Hits Philadelphia. On Wednesday, you have Moon King, Cones, Mahogany Carol at the Sound Hole in Philadelphia. You also have on Wednesday Star Castillo Live at SOBs in New York City. Not going down here, but it's happening. Then you have Thursday, you have the Plastic Pinks, Sector 8, Ladies Shame at the Pharmacy. Friday, you've got Plastic Pinks doing it again at the Pharmacy, I guess. Then you have the Blinks Back to School Jam. You have Apes of the State, Old Fox Road, Ted Hazard at Freak House. You have a metal sing-along at the Barbary. Fuck yeah, that's also going down on Friday. There's a ton of shit going down on Friday, man. And you have Dead Flower Circus Sideshow Fall Tour. Really disappointed I didn't get to interview these people. I'm super. I ever since I've interviewed Johnny Bentanamo, and he told me about the sideshow scene, I really want to get a sideshow interview. I'm looking forward to that. And then you also have Limited at, I don't even know how to pronounce that, but it's at 1214 South 8th Street. That's going down on Friday. Then Saturday, you have Ape of the States, Old Fox Road, Ted Hazard at Freak House. You've got the Dead Flower Circus Sideshow Fall Tour kickoff show at Taboo Lounge. You've got Sundrop Presents Brainfest. You've got Dent May, Knee High, Go Cozy at the Sound Hole in Philadelphia. And that is our show list for this week. That is sponsored by thehookjournal.com. If you're not getting your information about the scene from No Love Philly, you definitely need to be going to the Hook Journal. Emily's a great gal. She's got a lot of stuff going on. If you're looking to write for something, you should probably hit Emily up, because I think she's being inundated with requests to do these reviews of albums, but she doesn't have enough writers. So if you're really interested in writing, then I recommend you check out The Hook. If you want to get your album reviewed, I recommend you check out The Hook. Yeah, man, it's an awesome resource. So check them out. Also, make sure to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I just updated our website to make it a little bit cozier, a little bit more flush. So make sure to check us out at www.nolovephilly.com. That's KNOW, lovephilly.com. And we're just going to leave it at that. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. There is another event. Going on. Did you guys know? I didn't know this, but October is apparently like house show season. But in November, you are going to have an awesome follow-up to Good How Are You Fest. And this one, it's going to be November 11th, and it's called Great How Have You Been Fest. Yeah, man. How have you guys been? I want to know. Email me. Throw me a Facebook message. I'm curious. I want to know how you've been, and I want to go to this fest, and it's going to be an awesome fest. That's taking place in November, and I'm going to be promoting it until then because it is such a badass festival. Fucking Yenar is going to be there. Of course, Secret Nunes Friends, Trash Boy, Blushed, Honey Tiger, Julia Rayner, Madam West. Oh, we love Madam West. Mavis the Dog, Gender Work, Busy Bee Project, Kelsey Cork and the Swigs, Doggo, Very Bad Vibes, Tarantino the Thirds, Elaine Rasnake, Two Dogs, Space Cubs, Ex-Girlfriends, What's Up, Gina's, State School Girl, and more. That's taking place at Tralfamador, DIY, Point Breeze, and Slime Time. And there's more info coming soon. And as it becomes available, we're going to let you know. But for now, let's get into this Pray to Keep interview, because it is an awesome one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I can't wait to hear from you. Have a wonderful week. Go do some shows. Have an awesome time. See you later.
Hello.
It looks like we're good.
Hello?
All right, man. So we are in fucking BreweryTown, right? Yeah. Word to the wise, there is no parking in BreweryTown.
Really?
At all after, I guess, 5 p.m. or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Oh, hold on. That's what's wrong. There we go.
Okay.
All right. I knew the quality was off. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, as far as parking goes out here, it's. I mean, I live in South Philly, so it was that was twice as worse, I think, for sure.
See, I've been to South Philly a few times and never had the joke. Yeah, dude, I was
shit.
like, wow, yeah, dude.
Dude, I had to park on like weird abandoned lots and like I mean, it was side streets that like didn't like on the sidewalk. Got ticketed a million times. I mean, it's pretty bad in South Philly. For this, it's like 2 lanes, and but still, I mean, there's times I do drive around here like aimlessly trying to.
Yeah, but South Philly has those really narrow, small streets that like you can
and
barely get through.
Yeah, and they're one way, so it's like if you're trying to get into a parking spot, you're screwed. You know what I mean? You're like, there's a line behind you. This at least they can like go past you. There's buses going past me. There's trucks going past me. I mean, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, I mean. Yeah, I feel your pain at least to an extent, because it definitely gets a little difficult out here.
So I didn't even get to start off. Why don't you guys names?
I'm Will.
I'm Jay.
All right. So we're with Pray to Keep out here in BreweryTown. You guys are doing a lot of stuff, man.
I mean, yeah, a little bit here and there. I mean, it could be more.
Could be more.
Yeah, I mean, could be a lot more. It's a little light right now for sure.
Light.
We've been doing like more regional, and by regional I mean like Philadelphia, just extensively, pretty much, or exclusively. So I think we're trying to really do more outward places, like go to like actually like New Jersey, New York City, and go down south a little bit. Just kind of hit a little more. Out west, south, north. Really, just kind of get a little out of the state if you can. Even Pittsburgh would be. In the state even would be fine. So that's the goal.
I honestly don't think. So what do you guys play? Did you guys already say that?
I do vocals and guitar, and
I play bass.
All right. But you guys have quite an interesting story. I mean, in my opinion, how did you guys form?
Yeah. So I was in another band called Cadet, and then he was in another band called No Paradise. It was kind of falling apart. Both of them were kind of falling apart. His band ended up being Jesus Piece, pretty much. And then
Jesus Piece is kind of big, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
In the hardcore scene,
Yeah, they're really big in hardcore. And then for Cadet, that was just kind of falling apart itself too. I mean, it just, fizzled out. So I, him and I just kind of kept talking and just wanted to start something out of that, I think, because we played a lot of shows together. So that's how it pretty much started from that point. And then we just kind of, got together and we didn't really have an idea of what we wanted to do musically at the time, and that's what took, I think, the longest, probably. It took definitely, a lot of time to put together. We got members, we lost members. I mean, it was a big switch, and you can talk about some of the member.
So, so like Will was saying, I mean, the both of us came from bands that were sort of doing like a B-level type of like alt rock scene, maybe even more than that. Or by more than that, I mean less than that. And I don't know what the hell. I'm looking at it on my phone right now. Oh, Ryan Cabrera at one cent. So Ryan Cabrera will be performing on November 17th. But no, so what ended up happening really was that we were doing kind of like the prototypical, like a lot of shoegaze type stuff for my band specifically. We were like a My Bloody Valentine, Nothing type, rip. And then I think it's safe to say your band was a little bit more oriented towards like the rock end of things. Yeah. Hum and stuff like that. And so when that scene was never really prevalent in Philadelphia. So what I mean by that, it was hard for both of us as bands to kind of grow here because the prevailing things that were not like hardcore here were really, really, really DIY emo with a completely different aesthetic, completely different genre, completely different audience that wasn't really all that interested in listening to alt rock or shoegaze or even like grunge, more or less. And then there was just being in a punk band, which didn't fit what we were doing either.
I think as far as the genre went, I think there were, couple. Obviously, you have like Nothing being the kind of forefront of like anything shoegaze, and if you weren't on that level in Philadelphia, you kind of were ignored a little bit to an extent. I mean, and that's, they'd already kind of, and it was like, you had like Nothing, and then you had like Cloakroom, like bands like that were kind of, doing a little more on a larger level. And it seems like that scene had kind of come and gone. And like, not to say that like what we were doing was necessarily that to an extent, especially I guess my band wasn't necessarily doing that. Yeah. Jay's band was definitely a little more doing more of that, I'd say. So for him, it probably was even harder. Just because the comparisons were just difficult to not, put two and two together, I think. But, for Cadet, it was a little more like, I don't know, there was just issues of all kinds. So, for that to fall apart was kind of, like I said, obvious in some senses just because, we weren't playing out much. We couldn't, the members had issues with that. So, we ended up just doing this, and it took a long time to get this together. I mean, forever. Like, as far as like putting stuff out, like we started jamming in 2015, and I mean, it just
About a year and a half.
It took about a good year and a half, and I'm not saying all those times were efficient. They were just kind of like, what do we want to do sound wise? So I mean, if anything, that's good that we did that, because then it really kind of put us in a place of like, oh yeah, we want to do this style, but it wasn't a conscious decision. It just was like, hey, this is what we ended up doing, and that's what came out organically. So I think it's kind of cool, and now what we're doing is even, I think, newer stuff we're writing's even different than that. So it's, it's going to be another kind of transition, hopefully not as long of a process, but, it definitely is just going with what's natural to do musically.
I think one of the things that I was so surprised about when I moved to Philly is learning and seeing how big the emo scene is out here.
Mm-hmm,
like,
mm-hmm.
I mean, I really couldn't even believe it. Like,
Where were you from?
Texas.
Okay.
El Paso, Texas.
Okay.
So I'm, I'm from the far southwest.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? And it's not like how do I say it? It's not like emo didn't have a presence there, but what dominates, in my opinion, out there is metal.
Metal.
You know what I mean?
It's like Power Trip It from out there and stuff, and you have like obviously other bands of metal varieties, but I just know Power Trip as being kind of the headliner of that.
And I'm just saying, like, I mean, death metal, like, it's just, extreme metal, like, that was all, that's what we, so when I came over here, the hardcore punk I totally expect. It's fucking Philly. Of course I'm going to get some, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, of course. And so, but what tripped me out, one of the first people that I interviewed for No Love Philly was No Hope Records. And that was one of the dudes, they played in what's that? They were in a huge band. Oh, God, it's a fucking filter on. How am I forgetting this? It's a filter on fucking Instagram, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
Valencia.
Oh,
fucking Valencia.
Yeah. Okay.
So. Yeah, so I was like, how am I forgetting that?
I like that.
It is. Yeah, man. So you know, and then they had a fucking amazing story too, dude. Like, they fucking rose up.
Oh yeah,
they fucking
Valencia
lost.
was huge
They
out here.
lost. They fucking lost and fucking went to the bottom. Then fucking rose up again. You know what I mean?
Some of
It
the
was
bands
like,
that were
fuck.
bigger from this area were just crazy in the early 2000s and like later 2000s. Like, I mean, Starting Line was a huge band. You ever hear them before?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I'm just making sure that wasn't like lost on anyone at this point, because like that band was just, I mean, gigantic, you know. And I think of like that scene, like Valencia. Then you had like Starting Line, like all those kind of bands were really kind of coming to prominence, and then just out of nowhere, just bloom, like gone, like out of, you know. And it's just, I mean,
it seems to be making a resurgence.
to an extent, yeah. I mean, you know, like older dudes like me too, like they remember that era pretty well. And I mean, like all the dudes in the Starting Line are maybe a little older than me, not much, but a little older than me. But you know, those dudes really, I think, experienced like a whole different world. For like, they came in the tail end of like, they were still on MTV. You know what I mean? Like they were in the tail end of that. They were literally like, you turn on MTV, they were being played on there at that time. And like, I mean, that's, you know, that's a forgotten time period almost at this point.
Do you think that would still? Hold water, like being on MTV? Do you think and today?
They're not with what's currently available. I mean, that's what was available. I think, you know, you had very limited outlets, I think, to like really see things that were new and different as far as like bands. And like when it's centralized like that, I think it succeeded as well as it did. But I mean, if you look at it like, you know, what we have, I mean, YouTube wasn't even a thing at that point. You know what I mean? That didn't come out to like what, 05 or 06 or something. And then once that did, it's like you can watch any video you want any time of the day, and you premiere something, it's going to be on there. There's so many different outlets to find new videos that they premiere videos on different outlets of any, you know, like labels have different, like zines online, like anything you can possibly think of, there's outlets for it now to see new videos. But I think as far as like, you know, MTV was still like kind of a centralized, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna happen to see it on here, you know what I mean, type thing to fall onto if you're gonna find new videos. So yeah, I don't think it could, just because of what's available now. It's just, I don't think it would succeed. But I mean, they can still have it, but I don't think people are gonna care as much.
I heard they're bringing TLR back, so
oh my god,
that's happening.
If they bring TLR back, everything Will just said is discredited, and that's now the only way that bands will be able to get exposure.
Right.
Well, I hope they call it TLR and not TRL.
Is it TRL or
You said TLR.
Oh, did I?
No. Jay did.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, man. But so, you guys are talking about you guys are talking about some of the bands that you guys were in before here, but then you also have somebody that just joined from Agitator. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how did that come about?
He's one of my best friends. I grew up with him. I've known him since I was like in like middle school, maybe, you know. So we grew up in Doylestown together, and we were in hardcore bands. I was in death metal bands growing up. I was in hardcore bands, and we, you know, did a lot. That's what we really were playing, you know, at the time, a lot of. But I always was really at the same time very interested in playing other stuff. But, you know, if you have a scene thriving in that, that's what you're probably going to end up playing. You know what I mean? Just because it surrounds you so much. And then, you know, at some point it kind of hit me. It's like I kind of want to do other things because, you know, as much as I loved death metal and as much as I, like, loved playing hardcore, I also really loved, you know, doing what we're doing now. Like, you know, just exploring that world more. but it was really hard. I mean, Doylestown and the surrounding towns like Lansdale. I think Lansdale was a little more accepting of stuff like that. So if you're going to play like more alternative, it's going to be a lot more, I think, accepted for sure. But I think when you're doing, hardcore at the time, it was very streamlined into just playing that style. And like, it's cool though. I mean, it got me into a lot of, it definitely made me really understand hardcore, at the time. Cause I mean, I don't see little scenes like that popping up in the suburbs also. I mean, I'm not like 18 anymore, so there could be, but I mean, for the most part, it's not like that's like, we don't see like little circles of, scenes like there used to be. But yeah, I mean, that's, him and I grew up playing hardcore together. So it's like, really natural for me to be like, hey, we've done bands together before too. But I was like, hey, do you just want to do this, with me? And, he was totally into it. So he's definitely a big influence in this now because we're writing from the newer stuff's really kind of influence from him and me, but we're on like the same page, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that it was awesome to see like how much love like Agitator the band showed you guys. I mean, they were posting you on Facebook and saying, hey,
I have to kind of pull the curtain out from that one. I mean, I was just kind of Pat and I, on the page itself doing that, because I guess he runs the page, but
still cool though, man.
It was fun. Yeah, I mean, I was in another hardcore band, Rock Bottom. That was the other band I was in. So our bands would play together all the time. And that was a really cool time for both of us. I think we really enjoyed doing both those bands. I mean, that band especially for him, that was his like baby. That band is pretty much, he wrote everything. That's what he So for Rock Bottom for me was just kind of like, yeah, I'm down to play. It's cool. I didn't really do the writing too much, but it was just like de facto do that at the solo a lot in the band. So that was really the only thing I had to do, but it was fun. It was good.
So is Agitator a straight edge band?
Yes.
Are you guys all? Is it this all straight edge?
Yes.
All right, okay.
Yep. Everyone.
You guys are still doing like super interesting stuff, right? You guys just released an album. Is that right?
Yeah, we just put an EP out. I don't really have a name for it. We just kind of.
It's a self-titled EP. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys are. It's funny to me because you guys are just so nonchalant about it. But I mean, it was produced by one of the dudes from Taking Back Sunday. Is that right?
Yes, Fred.
So, right.
We'll talk about Fred for a minute.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about Fred. So yeah, I mean, essentially, I mean, what ended up happening was after going through like a year of just writing, and going through a lot of different members, including some members from like my old band that didn't end up working out. We finally got to a point where we had like this great product and we felt really strongly about it, but we had a little bit of trouble like matching it up with an engineer and a producer that like we felt would really understand what we were going for. And Fred is really cool because he was in Taking Back Sunday and Breaking Pangea and did all these really amazing things within like the mainstream, emo and alt community. But he's, at the end of the day, I mean, he's really just a guy that has a really good recording setup, who's really professional, is really willing to help out bands from the area. So we were able to get in with him just via a couple of different like connections that Will especially had with different guys that they had come up with. I'm not from Pennsylvania, by the way. I'm from Connecticut, so I don't know. A lot of this was kind of me sitting back and helping with the back and stuff. But anyway, so we ended up going in with Fred at his home studio and bringing this stuff to life and kind of having him give us a lot of help, especially with like how the vocal arrangements went.
And I'm sorry, where is this studio at? Where is this?
Yeah, Westchester. So he lives up there.
Okay.
So he's from there. Yeah. So he's not like and it's funny because like, I mean, listen, I was like, I went in hot by just being an asshole like immediately, and all the jokes about Taking Back Sunday, all that stuff like that was all me, like when we were with him, but what you realize 5 seconds after you meet the guy is that really he's just somebody who is very, very musically talented, who has a lot of great ideas compositionally and on guitar and vocals especially, who loves hardcore, is straight edge, is vegan, has been his whole life, was there at the beginning. The coolest part, I would say probably for all of us, was just talking to him about his experiences when he was younger. Even like what shows he went to, talking about seeing bands like Youth of Today, talking about like growing up in the 90s and
sorry.
Yeah, if you want to.
No, for me too. I mean, it was really cool to just see like, sorry, crack my back here. it was just really cool to talk about, when he was in Take Back Sunday, because I mean, obviously for for my age, it was really a huge band, and when I was in like high school, I mean they were gigantic, and
Still are.
yeah, I mean still
I think if you say that they're coming, you know what I mean. It's gonna be.
They're on tour like 300 days a year.
Right.
Yeah, they
You know what I mean?
they tour a lot.
They're always putting out stuff. They're always on tour.
Yeah, I mean they're really, I mean, still the name alone, it's still gonna have a draw no matter what. I mean, maybe no one wants to hear some of the newer stuff so much, but I mean, whatever. People are they're still gonna play some older stuff, and you're probably still gonna want to see it at some point. You know what I mean?
So I'm curious, man. So you rolled up to this dude's house and you're clowning on him with Taking Back Sunday jokes. I want to know what that. I want to know what that.
I'll tell you a good one if you want to hear it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna pass Jay in a minute, but he really is. The reason why I think that was okay on some level is just because, first off, I mean, I think he understood we respected that band and that he was in that band. I mean, we just said that 100 times. I mean, it wasn't like it was, we were making fun of him being in the band or something like that. It just was more like the song titles, we would turn the puns, things like that, just while we were recording. I mean, it was fun. He's one of those dudes. And also, I knew him ahead of time because the dude who owned the label called Hardcore Records, his name's Vince Spina, and he put out Agitator stuff until they went to 6 Feet Under. And then he also put out Ben I Was in Rock Bottom, and he put out all of our stuff. So he was childhood friends with Fred. So that's how I met Fred. Because I also had to meet up with him one time. I sold him a microphone. And that's how I ended up meeting him. And I just realized this dude's like the most down to earth person that I've and I'm like, wow, this dude's like in some huge band. Of course, it doesn't matter what kind of band it is. If as long as they were big, you meet this person, you're still gonna be like, wow, that dude was in this band. So it still kind of hit me, at that point in time, like how big of a, just how humble he was in that respect. You know what I mean? And then here, let me pass it to Jay for any kind of.
I mean, you can follow it, but at the very end of the podcast, I'll tell you what my shining moment of clowning on Fred was. But just to reiterate what Will said, I mean, you asked originally, you guys really talk about it nonchalantly, and I give a lot of that credit to Fred for making the recording process, the production process, everything. He really, with as amazing as he is at everything, made it about us producing a record with him, not him producing a record and then going, that's Fred Mascherino approved, and he's totally not that person, and made it really easy for us to just work with him and kind of collaborate rather than kind of curating this experience where we were just a Fred Mascherino is on a track with us, and that, I think that really helped all of us, me, I mean, that's the first time I've ever been in a situation like that with somebody from a band that my girlfriend would know, you know what I mean? Not that my girlfriends are cooler than their boyfriends usually, but just in this instance, somebody from a band that's that recognizable to everybody, not just people within our scene. I'd never been around anybody like that, let alone worked with someone, and I think it's a really good testament to what a professional he is, that he created that environment for us, and I think the record sounds authentic and has a lot of integrity. And some of that is definitely due to how Fred handled working with us.
What do you think you guys learned? What do you guys think you learned from that recording process? I mean, I know that you guys each have your
Giving
own.
it right to Will for that one.
I'm not touching that. In terms of, I guess, in maybe, what do you mean? I guess
whatever you want. I mean, whatever you learned. What did you take away from that?
All right. Well, for me personally, I think, as a singer, I wasn't able to literally sing before we did this. I think, I had a method of doing it. When I did Cadet, it was really kind of this lo-fi, kind of sound I was doing. And it really, it didn't, if you're doing shoegaze, the singing is kind of washed out to an extent. So it's not like you're the focal point. You're kind of part of the music in a sense. And that's what I was kind of used to. And I could get by doing that, but I really wanted to actually sing, so when we went to record, we had just lost, that was the other thing too, we had a singer that was from No Paradise, and it just didn't work out with them, but we I had to kind of step up, and so did our other guitar player, who's no longer in the band, He did 2 of the tracks. I did 3 of the tracks on the recording. And our voices were so different. Now, at the time, I think his voice was a little stronger than mine when we first started recording, but it had its limits, and I think he didn't really care to put any effort into doing any more than what he was capable of. And, like, for me, I was just like, I'm going to be – he wanted me to take more reins anyway, so I had to really, like, focus on being able to sing. And, I tried getting tips from Fred because Fred's a great singer. And he's one of those dudes that just kind of came natural, too, so his advice to an extent was kind of like, well, just – kind of do it, it wasn't really like anything too in depth, but yeah, I had to kind of just sit. I was living at our drummer's house at the time when I was like recording vocals. I was literally working on my vocals at his house every day, and I actually recorded a lot of the vocals at his house, and I would send him to Fred, and then he would just kind of mix them and edit them and stuff. But it took like a month or 2 to really figure it out, because I don't know. I just really never pushed myself to do it, and I had to just do it, And that's what I learned. That's what I took away from it. I think that's the biggest thing that came out of that for me was, hey, I can actually push myself and do this, because I really thought when I had to start singing, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. This is gonna suck. I don't know if this is gonna work, and if I can do it. And I think it ended up pretty good. And I can only improve, but I was pretty happy with what we did, and I mean, just considering where I was when we first tried to record singing, and it was horrible sounding. So,
Do you think that that after that you developed a bond or a stronger relationship with this dude? I mean,
yeah, I mean, he's got a busy life. I think he's got a family. Him and his wife just opened up a vegan restaurant in Westchester. So, I mean, he's always busy. He's got a full-time job, and he's also helping run this, restaurant. So,
how do you mean full-time job?
what does he do? I forget.
I believe that he does sound for a corporate events type thing. So just I guess production.
Yeah. I'm not trying to blow up his spot or anything to where what he's doing is if someone shows some fan shows up and hey, you're Fred from Taking Back Sunday, aren't you? it's Pringle.
Right.
Fred. But yeah, so I mean, but we did. I mean, I really loved hanging with that dude, and anytime I get the chance, I love hanging with him. So
that's awesome, man. I mean, I think that's just such a unique story in the way that it all kind of came together, that you guys knew people mutually, and it just kind of something that happened naturally, right?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it worked out. We wanted to record, and I remember that kind of came up in my head that he recorded, so we reached out, and I mean, it was really easy setting that up.
So, what about shows? I mean, where are you guys performing, or what do you guys?
So that's the burning question. So what about shows? So one of the things that I think is kind of interesting if you're just talking about it from a band's perspective is okay, so we recorded for with Fred Mascherino, got it mixed and mastered by Vince Ratty and Bill Henderson respectively, 2 really really great guys who've worked with a ton of bands. We practiced for a year and a half. You know what I mean? We really did the whole thing. And then the question is, okay, so now what? And so the last couple of months we've been confronted with the now what, which is where do we play? And we've been lucky enough to get a couple of local shows like a Voltage Lounge. We've played the Pharmacy. We've gotten a couple of offers to do Kung Fu Necktie. Haven't been able to make any of them yet, but we will. We've played a bunch of really cool house shows in the area. One of them is actually down the street from here with Fred about a year ago.
Oh, really?
So that was really cool. But what we've noticed has been, and it's a struggle for every band, but especially kind of bands where that are at where we're at, is we have this really great product that we're proud of and sounds good, and we have the merch, and we know what we're doing objectively. We can get to a show on time and play and sound good. But we're now confronted with the reality that there aren't a ton of shows going on right now in Philadelphia for bands like us. And also the fact of the matter is, our full-time job now is really reaching out to promoters, reaching out to other bands and trying to curate, shows that we book internally. We're hoping to book like a small run for the fall with another band who probably also doesn't have an agent or management. And what we've seen and what we've been told by our friends in the industry and what we know with common sense is that what we do now with how hard we work to just insert ourselves into the scene and be really active and be really present is probably going to dictate us getting an agent, us getting a manager. But a lot of that, it comes from us, like, internally, just doing the work. And we were lucky enough to have a really good PR guy, Brandon Gallagher. He works for The Chain. He was in like the band Old Wounds, has done a lot of stuff, and he's newer to the PR thing, but he, with his help, we were able to get on a couple of playlists on AP. We're actually going to be in AP Magazine next month for a 12 upcoming. Yeah, it's really cool. For like a 12 upcoming bands feature. We've been in New Noise Magazine. We've had WXPN feature us. Somebody like you, we connected with you by like seeing something you post and going, oh my God, here's an email, like, please, like, talk about us, like, hang with us, like, get to know us. And that's where we're at right now is like, that's like it's like literally like it's a full-time job finding a job. It's a full-time job putting yourselves out there as a band really professionally and just like meeting people and being cool and being easy to work with to get booked and eventually be able to get on tours, which is then end goal.
Strongly, is your guy, well, before I strongly recommend anything, what are your guys' goals? Are you guys looking, would you guys like to be signed to a label?
I'll give Will this one.
What are your goals?
The one thing that, I think propels any of us, not perpetuates, propels us. I think, for me personally, obviously it comes first with anything musical, but what I want to do with that goes further. I want to be able to, it's not out of the question to say that I want to put a lot of effort into being able to, do some touring, and, have it reach across a further, landscape than where we're at now. It's very centralized right now, but I want to be able to, enter like big studios and be able to like do some big, take some time to like really record. And that's always been the big thing, I think, for anything like label wise. If, that's the only thing I've ever felt like a label would really be, something goal wise for me personally. Just to be able to take that time and not have that pressuring feeling of like, okay, you have, this amount of time to you record. And, that's always kind of the biggest pain in the ass that I've run into for most of any band I've done since. It's just that time limit, and being able to have a label backing that financially is a really, I think, important step to take if you want to be a little more serious as a band and really get out what your art is, and put that forward. And like, and of course the, what they can do as far as promotional side really helps.
So based on what you guys are telling me, you guys are saying, man, our concerns are things that we want to do is it's touring, it's PR, it's studio. I really, and I don't even know that they're looking for anybody, but I really recommend that you guys look at No Hope Records.
Okay.
It's JD Perry from Valencia. And Sean and those do. I feel like that's right up you guys. Your music style would just fit so well with that label. So it's just something I recommend checking out. They're
definitely
local. They're in South Philly. You're in South Philly. It's something to.
Yeah. It's weird that we didn't know.
Yeah. And I think that even through you guys' own connections, there probably be a mutual friend or a natural connection.
Yeah, for sure.
That could make that happen. But
yeah, I'm sure I know someone that knows someone.
I'm sure Will knows.
Right.
Somebody that knows I know that I know.
Right. It is just something to think about, because here's what I do know about No Hope is that when I first talked to them almost a year ago, they were the second people that I had on the podcast.
Cool. Okay.
Is that they had just signed with a media agency that kind of encompassed all of the bands that are on their labels. So Earshot Media.
Right.
Dude,
fucking ain't right. Huh?
Mike Cubello.
Yeah. Cabillos. Yeah.
Or Cubelos, however. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So now, awesome story about Mike. Mike started off with just smaller bands. Well, now that motherfucker runs all of Warped Tour. You know what I mean? He does all the press, all the PR for Warped Tour. So it's a pretty interesting story, man. And like I remember when I talked to them, I was like, dude, I can't believe you guys signed that. Signed to that. And then when he told me, oh no, we signed for all of our bands to be on that. I was like, holy shit, that's a power move right there.
The Brixton Agency and BPM and there's so many great. I apologize like that. That's awesome. So I was like a promoter. That was like my gig. So I when I was younger, I saw Mike Ubillis. I have so many emails in my old Gmail account from him for like everything band you've ever heard of.
Because of him, I got to interview so many fucking bands. Because of him, I got to so many Warped Tours.
We gotta talk off record on this and get some stuff going. But harkening back to what you were saying about
you'll probably have to hold that closer. Sorry.
Talking to somebody like No Hope Records or something like that. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I feel like my bandmates probably feel the same way. And it's just like at the end of the day, all we want to do is really just play in front of as many people as we can, as much as we can, put stuff out that makes sense musically and is well done musically and again, the internet, we did another interview a while ago where we kind of talked about this, but like in the age of the internet, and it's not like this happened like yesterday, it's been going on for like a long time, but everybody is everything. Every band has the capability to be their own recording studio, agent, manager, PR person, whatever. And where we're at is capability. Not you shouldn't do it, but you have the ability to do it.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I can see how you see that in the landscape. I'm telling you, it's not possible.
Oh no, I know.
It's an impossible
what I was
going to
say was what I was going to say.
Everything.
Yeah, what I was going to say was we absolutely don't want to be everything.
Okay, good.
We want to be at a point where we can focus, like every one of us, on just playing and being a professional performing band, and have these people who are professionals at management and are professionals at being an agent or a PR person or a designer, doing work with a band that they really love, that they think is cool, and they connect with the music. And I think that's one of the coolest things about kind of like looking above the DIY level is, doing everything yourself. Awesome. There's a ton of like credibility to be given to that because it's hard work. But I think doing one thing super well, really uniquely and really authentically, and being able to work as adults with like other industry professionals is kind of like, what I would like with this band. And I think like what would do the best service to like us is musicians, you know what I mean, is being able to get to that level.
What I find funny too is that with both of y'all's experience, I mean, and I'm just talking like just experience in your previous bands, your experience, releasing records, your experience touring. My opinion is that you guys have been hitting. I feel, and I say this a lot about a lot of people, but I feel like you guys are right there. You guys are on this cusp of, fuck, man, we're almost there. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where you gotta keep doing it and hit while iron's hot.
And I feel like it's going to be kind of funny because, I mean, truth be told, to think that stuff we're writing now is a little different than what we just recorded, the 5-song, and you know what I mean, it's not going to be so crazy that it's going to be like, we're doing free jazz or something. It's going to just like there's going to be a horn section, but it's going to be like more, it's just going to be a little different musically. But that's that's kind of how things go, and I mean I'm excited for it. I'm not like sitting here going like, oh, it's different, but I'm excited to do that because I love what we did with the 5-song EP. I love it, and I'm speaking just in terms of music, like that's. But like I said, it was also the other member we had in the band too. We really, we kind of did like kind of a halfway point with each other. The other guitar player, he wrote a little bit here and there, and I did most of the writing, but he had a huge influence on a lot of the stuff and what it sounded like, and it to where we're going. Then having our new guitar player Pat. From Agitator, his influence is a little different than the other guitar player we had, and by a little I mean a lot. Yeah, I mean they're really different, dudes in general, but him and I think more like, in terms of like music, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see the two of us feed off each other, because instead of just kind of like a halfway point like I was having with the other guitar player, it's going to be kind of like, oh, this is cool, oh, you do this, and it'll be like a growing thing. I think it's going to be a little healthier than where it was at before.
So we went through this whole podcast and we didn't even kind of like identify like what do you guys how do you this EP, man, it's going to be your defining sound, right? You know what I mean? Like what
Yeah, and that's where it's going to be that's where it's going to kind of go differently.
Left.
Yeah.
All
Oh
right.
yeah, for
so
sure.
How if you were to be a genre, what do you guys think you fall in? Because for me, that was emo. That's kind of where
the turn might take a little bit. It might get a little more rock based, but in a different.
Do you think more hardcore or
No.
Like alt rock, like
not in like an alt. I don't want to say alt. It's just gonna be more. I think we're going for like a larger sound, like more layers, and not like in a fucking shoegaze. Yeah, like shoegaze, kind of like how many instruments are being played. No, just like a larger sound, and it's hard to explain exactly what it's going to be, but I mean, there's going to be more, I think, depth to what we're trying to do as far as the musical end of it, and then that's really hard to put into words. Obviously, it's can't take a giant sound in music and just kind of go like, hey, it's this word, but we're going for ska. Yeah, it's. No, it's just gonna be a little different, But I'm excited for it because it's something that I think I've kind of wanted to do a little more. But it'll make sense to where we go in my head. I'm seeing it make sense. It's just gonna definitely not, you could trace what we're doing now to what we're going to do. But yeah, I mean, it's just it might just be a little bit of a shock, but I think it'll be a good shock out there.
Is there anything else that you guys would like to add? Anything that I missed? Maybe something I didn't pick up on?
I would love to. What do you want? Well, I want to very quickly segue back to what Will was just saying about where we're going with our sound. So to make it really simple, so the first thing that ever got written about us, like I think it was WXPN, did like a review of our Bandcamp like a couple of months ago, and their phrase for us was alterna goth. Like that was like, and that was like, and so the thing is like, awesome. Like that's great. I'm wearing like we're all like goth. I mean I'm not goth, but I guess maybe like you are objectively in a way. But anyways, nobody is. Yeah, nobody is. But the point being, I think the vibe that the music.
Okay, which one of you listens to Bajas? That's what I want to know.
Not either of us or neither of us.
Okay,
whichever way. Yeah, we both have like dorky glasses, so it could go either way. But what I think is a good way to look at it is like we were coming out of a tradition of like bands like Taking Back Sunday, stuff like that. Like we got compared to Senses Fail a lot, which I don't think was like intentional on our part when we were writing it. We got compared to those bands like Taking Back Sunday, Silverstein. AFI was like another one. There's some Jawbreaker stuff in there. There's some like some.
Did that agitate you?
No, I love it.
You saw what I did there.
Yeah. I mean, personally, we all love all those bands, but the thing is, those bands, if you track kind of like where they're coming, with the exception of like Deftones probably, but if you track where they're coming from, it's more from like a punk emo thing. There's a lot of musical devices that you could use to describe like how you get out of that, but where we're heading is kind of
probably
like,
gonna have to hold that closer. Sorry.
I would say like, not to give anything away, but maybe think about the lens of like, what if a band that was coming from those bands started to really like Third Eye Blind, or started to really like something that you could hear at Festival Pier, or started to really like something that was more mainstream and had a kind of pop sensibility to it. And that's all I'll give, but I think that we have what I believe, and I know what Will believes, and what we all, I think, communally think is like a unique idea of how to escape being just like a revival band and start being just a contemporary current rock band that you can tell like, yeah, we all like, we're tattoos, we're cool, we're not at Frankfurt Hall, you know what I mean, like watching football on a Sunday, or maybe we are, I'm not, but the point is you're gonna be able to tell that we like a lot of the alternative stuff, the emo stuff and everything else, but it's not gonna be something that you can go, well, pray to keep the emo revival band for 2018. And I think that's gonna be the cool part for us.
And it wasn't a conscious decision. Like I'm not, how Jay summed it up was definitely not something that was like like we weren't like, oh yes, now this grand plan can go into effect. It was just kind of like, hey, like this is where we started gravitating towards because of Pat. Right, and I mean, and like I said, the one member that we lost really was an effect on some of that stuff. But I think the one dude who we gained is obviously more I think in tune with me. Like I said, grew up with them. We're really close, and we kind of have very similar musical tastes.
So all right, man. So your Fred story, you need to plug that real quick.
Okay, so we were playing that show that I mentioned down the street from here, right? So Fred played acoustic. And he only played one Taking Back Sunday song, and I think it was This Photograph is Proof, right? I think that was the one that he did. So he did so he was doing a lot of awesome stuff, like Breaking Pangea and stuff. So at one point when he was just starting This Photograph is Proof, something happened with the PA. And I think it got the vocals got turned off or something. So I went, "Hey Fred, a little bit louder now," and it got a lot of laughs. It went over really well. Probably more memorable than the set that we played that night, but that was the kind of rapport that we have with him. And to sum it up, he laughed, and I think that was he called me an asshole, but he laughed after.
Right.
Yeah, but the point is, I got called an asshole by Fred Mascherino, and we still consider him a friend, and I think that's cool.
Yeah, have you ever heard? And he's from Westchester. I don't know if you've ever watched Jackass and stuff like that, or
is Bam still up there? Or?
Yeah, we.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Is he rough? Is he in rough shape?
I've met him 100 times. Yeah, I mean, I prank call his dad all the time. I've had his number for forever since I was younger. No, I should have. I've had his number since I was younger. My friend used to work. I can't actually get into that. It's interesting how it's interesting how I got the number. I'll just leave it at that. Never mind. So
I once called Kirk Hammett because my friend worked at a call center and they had access to that.
Okay, it's on that.
Very similar.
Yes.
All right, okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to go into detail to. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to say where the information was breached, but yeah, we used to prank call him all the time, and I used to just be like, "Phil, come pick me up at the mall," and weird shit like that, in the middle of the night. And he'd be like, April, this fucking kid won't stop fucking calling me. But he was so used to it because his kids were assholes that that he just was like, "Oh Jesus," and he put up with it. He'd start naming different dudes that they'd all hang out with and try to go and see which one of them was calling him, and I'd just go with whatever one he said first and be like, "Oh yeah, it's Deco," or whatever the fuck or whatever, and he'd be like, and I'd be like, I'm stuck in a fucking ice sculpture or something, and I need help to thaw it, whatever, So yeah, it was fucking ridiculous, but yeah, Fred. To get back to my point, Fred kind of has that. He sounds like the way they talk, from Westchester. It's hilarious. If you close your eyes, you're talking to any of those dudes. It's really funny. And he knows those guys too. Yeah, Fred's the best. He's a fun dude.
That's awesome, man. Do you guys got any shows coming up? Anything that you want to promote? Anything that you want to do right now?
So we're playing in Washington D.C. on the 3rd with a band called Stay Wild, who's on Panic State Records, which is a really cool smaller label from Jersey. And then we have a show in Stroudsburg on 10/8 up at the Sherman Theater. I'm not entirely sure who that's with, but it's through SLP Concerts. So Henry Manziel and Stan, awesome dudes. Really excited to play up there. And we're in the process of booking. So if you own a venue in or around the tri-state area and would like us to play there, we're always down. And hopefully you'll be hearing more from us, this fall and this winter.
Awesome, man. Pray to keep. Book them. Thank you very much for your time, guys.
You.
Appreciate it, all right?